It was another slow week in San Ramon. I'm Tony with Clarkson Santoro, and this is our real estate update for the week of Friday, October 24th. We know that selling or buying a home can be very stressful and confusing. That's why we do these weekly videos so you can know how the market is impacting your options as a home buyer or seller. Starting off, we like to look at how the market performed this past week. There are now 40 homes on the market, a few more than we had last week, with an average asking price about the same at $1,830,000. 3 homes went pending, 2 fewer than last week. But the more encouraging part is that the average asking price for pending sales is roughly the same at $1,975,000, down about less than $100,000 from last week's $2,068,000. But having this number be up close to $2 million is an encouraging sight we'll talk about here in a little bit. 7 homes sold last week, this week, which is the same as last week, with the average sales price about the same. And right here, we're talking about those numbers being well below the $2 million range, which is why seeing those pending numbers up is encouraging. So now we know how the market performed this past week. We can look at the broader trends that help us determine where the market might be heading. Before we look at those trends, if you find this information helpful, you can subscribe so you don't miss out on future updates. And while you're at it, why don't you share this with a friend also? Everyone deserves to be in the know about their local real estate market. All right, now let's take a look at those. Oops, wrong button. There we go. At those broader indicators. Starting with the inventory, it crept back up again this week, or a little bit this week, just a little bit, sitting at 40 homes on the market. While it's not a significant increase, it is disappointing to see that number grow again with the rest of the market indicators we saw last week. It had been coming down, and we were hoping it would settle below the 40 mark here, but here we are at 40 again. With only 3 pending homes, it's no surprise to see that the inventory number did creep back up. And of course, with the increase in inventory and the reduction in pending sales this week, turnover rate it's no surprise to see that the turnover rate dropped back down again. We're now creeping close to that 50% mark again, sitting now at 63%, where we were at 70% last week. Along with the falling turnover rate, we're seeing the over-under number dip further back into the under range again. We're now at 2% below asking price. And you see it's fallen precipitously in the past couple of weeks. I mentioned last week that I think a plus or minus 2% is within normal limits for a neutral, healthy market. But with the rest of the indicators pointing in the wrong direction, this feels less neutral and like it's moving back into buyers' favor significantly. Now, this chart is interesting. Looking at this steep decline, you might be led to believe that, housing prices are crashing in San Ramon. I can hear that typical news report headline in my head. Look at the chart. It's a steep drop-off. While the average closing price has come down about $600,000 in the past several months, that has more to do with a small sample size of closing homes comprised primarily of homes in the $1.6 million range and lower. So while this chart looks alarming, what it really tells us is that the market is still relatively strong in the lower price range, while it continues to struggle for the majority of the homes that are listed up around the 2 million mark, which is what I was talking about at the beginning, with the pending sales finally touching that $2 million asking price range. Hopefully this will help adjust this here soon. The Triple Q fund settled down this week after a little hiccup it experienced last week. It remained level this week. This is a nice breath of fresh air in an otherwise down week. With all the turmoil around trade wars, the government shutdown, H-1B visa suspensions, it is nice to see that the tech market is still holding pat. I think there is still a decent amount of concern amongst a large portion of our buyer demographic that relies heavily on the tech industry for employment, but having the fund hold steady is a little bit of a nice breath of fresh air, like I said. Fortunately, interest rates continued to drop this week, falling another 8 basis points. We're getting close to seeing rates start with a 5 for the first time in 3 years. It did almost touch that last year at 6.8 or 6.08. We're sitting now at 6.19. But again, we haven't seen it touch 5 in a long time and get below the 6% mark since 2022. Even if they do drop below 6%, I don't think we will see any real movement until they get below the 5.5 line. And I think that we're a long way off from that. But seeing the number start with a 5 instead of a 6 or a 7, that'll be an encouraging sight. It's typical for the market to slow down in October, and we are really feeling that right now. Sellers need to be mindful of how their house presents and where they are priced in their market. If you are in the upper price range, the house needs to be nearly perfect in presentation or price to get quick movement. Whereas if you land in the lower range of the market, there's still a little more flexibility in how you approach the presentation of your home. Either way, it is important to realize that there's too much uncertainty in the general economy to accept high premiums for your house. But the good news is that despite the average sales price numbers, home values are holding strong, so equity loss is not a significant issue at this time. Thank you for joining me on this weekly update. I hope it helps you understand how our market is impacting your options. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay informed on how the market continues to shape up as we close out the year. And if you have any questions about how you can navigate the stressful and confusing process of selling or buying a home, leave a comment down below or reach out to us directly. We're here to help guide you every step of the way. Thanks again for joining me. Have a safe weekend, and I'll see you next week with a new update.